أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 179, Surah An-Nur, ayah number 27 to 31. In the following ayat, many commands are given in order to close all the possible doors that lead to zina. Because at the beginning of the surah, what did we learn? About the punishment of zina. And then the incident of ifk was mentioned, because in that a woman was accused. And through that, the Muslims are taught that they should not take interest in such things, in vulgar talks, in obscene things. Rather, they should be more concerned about good things. So we see that in the following ayat, certain ahkam are given, certain commands are given, which close all the doors that could possibly lead to zina. And these commands, they also teach us the etiquette of communal living, of living together in a society peacefully. Because in our religion, we are not just given commands with regards to our personal lives, that how we're supposed to worship and that's it. How we're supposed to be in our behavior and that's it. No. We're also taught how to live in a society so that other people are not harmed because of us. Other people do not suffer because of us. And at the beginning of the surah, we were taught that this entire surah is a surah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory. The commands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed in it, all of them are mandatory for every single person. Therefore, from now on, the commands are being mentioned. So all of us must pay close attention to all of them so that we can understand them. Because only when we understand them, then we will be able to apply them properly. Because remember how much these commands were emphasized at the beginning of the surah. Suratun anzalnaha wa faradnaha. We have made it obligatory. So it's an obligation upon all of us to observe these commands, just as it is an obligation upon us to pray 5 times a day. And just as you need to learn about how to pray, in order to pray, similarly you need to learn about all these commands in order to observe them. So the first command that is given over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, O you who have believed, La tadkhulu buyutan, do not enter houses, غَيْرَ بُيُوتِكُمْ, other than your own houses. Until when? حَتَّى تَسْتَأْنِسُوا وَتُسَلِّمُوا عَلَى أَهْلِهَا. Until you ascertain welcome and you greet their inhabitants. And doing this, making yourself known and greeting the people of the house, this is ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. That is best for you, perhaps you will be reminded. Over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the believers, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu. And whenever a command is given in this manner, what does it show? The importance of the command. That this is something that a believer must do. This is something that a believer must do. This is what Iman requires from a person. If he does it, it will perfect his Iman. If he leaves it, it will negatively affect his Iman. Observing it is a requirement of Iman, and neglecting it is a deficiency in Iman. So, Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu, and it includes all the believers, whether they are men or they are women, relatives, related or they're not related, whether they're children or they're adults, whether they're mahram or non-mahram. Every single believer is being told that la tadkhulu, do not enter. Tadkhulu is from the root letters dal, kha, lam, dukhul, which is to enter somewhere. So do not enter buyutan, into houses. Which houses? That are ghayra buyutikum, that are not your own houses. Until when? Hatta tasta'nisu wa tusallimu ala ahliha. Until you make yourself familiar and you have also taken permission and you have also said the salam. The question is, what is the bayt of a person? Because over here what is mentioned? La tadkhulu buyutan. So what falls in buyut? Buyut is a plural of bayt. And bayt is from bayata, bata yabitu, which means to spend the night. So bayt is the place where a person spends the night. It is the house of a person, where he lives. And it's not necessary that this house should be constructed of bricks and wood. No. It can apply to a tent even. It can apply to a cabin even. It can apply to a room even. Any place that a person calls his house, where he spends the night. And the house of a person, the house of a man, is the house where his wife lives. Where he lives with his wife. This is the actual house of a person. The place where one's relatives, such as his parents, or a person's siblings, or a person's in-laws, they live, is not one's actual house. The actual house of a person is where? Where the man lives with his wife. You understand? Where the man is the qawwam, where he is the boss. It's not that somebody else is the boss above him, but rather he is the boss. That he is the manager. And his wife is the one who runs the house. You can say that he is the king and she is the queen of that house. This is the house of a person. And remember that the concept of living together in the form of extended families is not something that is obligated by our religion, nor is it, you can say, encouraged by our religion. It is something that is cultural and perhaps a temporary makeshift situation that some people have to undergo. However, this is not something that is endorsed by our religion or obligated by our religion. Why? Why do I say that? Because the house of a person is where he is the man of the house. And his wife is the one who runs the house. Because all of the rules that will be given in these ayat, they're pertaining to what? The man coming to his house, the man leaving his house. So that happens where? In a person's own house. And each woman, each man has the right to be in a place where they decide to do whatever they want to do. Where they're not governed by other people's rules and other people's laws, but rather they're independent in whatever that they do. Because this is a part of the freedom that each person has been given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that do not enter into buyut, into houses, غَيْرَ بُيُوتِكُمْ, that are other than your own houses. So anyone else's house, it could refer to anyone else's residence. Like for example, a person's parents' house, a person's sister's house, a person's children's house even. This is what? Buyutan ghayra buyutikum. House that is not your house. A residence that is not your private residence. It's not a residence where your wife lives. It's a residence where your other relatives may live or some other people live. So when you enter a house other than your house, you're not allowed to enter until, first of all, tasta'nisu. Tasta'nisu is from the root letters Hamza, Noon, Sin. From the word uns. And uns is to be familiar, be friendly. And anasa is to perceive something, to feel the presence of something. And istinas is to seek uns. It is to acquaint oneself, to make oneself familiar. And it's the opposite of wahsha. What does wahsha mean? Fear. So if somebody comes, you're familiar with them. If somebody comes and they make their presence known, you perceive their presence, are you afraid? Are you frightened? No. Whereas if somebody just shows up from nowhere, all of a sudden, you turn around and you see somebody standing behind you, isn't that a source of fear? Of course it is. So tasta'nisu, it has been understood in two ways. First of all, tasta'nisu has been understood as tasta'dhinu, meaning until you have taken permission. Do not enter into somebody else's private residence until you have taken permission from them. Now when can you take permission from a person before entering their house? You could do that before time. Like for example, you make an appointment from before. You call your friend and you ask her, can I come over to your house at 4 o'clock tomorrow? I have to see you. She says, okay. So then at 4 o'clock, you go to her house. So how can you take permission from someone in order to enter their house? First of all, making an appointment from before. Calling them from before. And this is something that is very, very important. Because unfortunately, perhaps this is something that is cultural, that we just show up at other relatives' house without any warning, and we expect that we should be taken in immediately and we should be served immediately, and the other person should stop what they're doing and they should give attention to us. This is not the correct way. If somebody is living in their house, they have some things to do, they're busy in whatever they're doing, you cannot expect that she just come out of nowhere and they should give you full attention at that moment. It's not possible. You have to take permission from before. And especially these days, this is not something difficult at all. Everybody has a phone. You can call people. You can send them a text message. You can ask them before you come. So how can a person take permission? First of all, from before. And secondly, at the time of arrival. That once you arrive, before entering the house, take permission. How will you do that? Like, for example, knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, or, for example, saying out loud, saying the salam, or saying something, asking, may I come in? So first of all, tasta'nisu means tasta'dinu. And remember that this word tasta'nisu, its masdar is istinas. Istinas also means isti'lam. Isti'lam is from ilm, knowledge. And it is to acquaint oneself, to make oneself known, to make the other person aware of your presence. To make the other person aware of your presence. To make the other person aware of your identity, of who you are. And how will you do that? By saying something. So for example, you go to somebody's house. If you knock at the door and somebody asks, who is it? And you just say, I. How will they know who you are? They're not going to have any idea. So you have to make yourself known. Before entering the house, you have to make yourself known. Identify yourself. If they ask, who is it? Don't say guess. Don't say, oh, you didn't recognize me? Because sometimes it happens that people call, and if you don't recognize them, they're like, you've forgotten about me already. This is what people say. This is not the correct way. If somebody asks you who you are, make yourself familiar. Acquaint yourself. Let them know who you are. So, for example, if you go to somebody's house, how can you do isti'lam? How can you make them know about your presence, that you are there? Like, for example, you go to see someone, they don't know who you are. You could perhaps send in your business card with the person who comes at the door. You could perhaps tell them that, could you please tell so-and-so member of the house that I am here outside and this is my name and I have come for this in this purpose. So, do not enter until, first of all, tasta'nisu. And we see that the Sahaba, they asked the Prophet ﷺ that, O Messenger of Allah, we know about giving salam, that when we go to somebody's house, we should say salam first. But what is isti'nas? What does tasta'nisu mean? He said that saying Alhamdulillah and Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah, in a loud voice. What does it mean by that? That you say something out loud when you knock at the door, so that the other person knows who you are. Do you understand? You say Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, or something out loud, so that when you have knocked the door and the other person is approaching, they can tell, oh, it's this person. Like, for example, some people, some men in particular, they have a habit of shaking their keys in a particular way. Like, I remember my Quran teacher, every time he would come to teach us, when I was a child, he would always move his keys in a particular way, even after ringing the doorbell. So from inside, we would know, okay, it's him, open the door. Do you understand? So, tasta'nisu, make yourself familiar by saying something so that the other person knows who is behind the door, who is ringing the doorbell, who is asking permission to come in. So this is the first thing that must be done. Secondly, وَتُسَلِّمُوا عَلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا. And greet who? Those people who are in the house. Tusallimu is from the root letter Sin, Lam, Mim. And taslim is to say salam, to offer salam. So when are you required to say salam? First of all, on facing the person of the house. Meaning when they come, when they open the door, when they ask you who you are, what should you say? The first thing, salam. Say assalamu alaikum. Because if you don't say salam, what does it mean? Perhaps you've come for some evil purpose. Like imagine a thief, he would not say salam before entering the house. Assalamu alaikum, I'm here. No, he would not say that. So tusallimu ala ahliha, upon facing the person of the house when they let you in. And secondly, tusallimu ala ahliha is also when taking the permission. When taking permission to enter, at that time, say assalamu alaikum. Like for example, we learned that Umar radiallahu anhu, whenever he would come to see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would say assalamu alaikum, ayadkhulul Umar, assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, assalamu alaikum, may Umar enter? So he would make his presence known, and he would seek permission to enter in how? By saying the salam, by taking his name. Because by saying salam, he was obeying wa tusallimu ala ahliha. And by saying his name, he was doing tasta'nisu. We learned that Imam Ahmad, he has recorded from Qalada ibn al-Hanbal, that at the time of the conquest of Makkah, Safwan ibn Umayyah, he sent him with milk, a small gazelle, and also small cucumbers when the Prophet ﷺ was at the top of the valley. So he said that I entered upon the Prophet ﷺ and I did not give the greeting of salam, nor did I ask for permission to enter. So he just walked in. With all those things, he just walked in, and the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw him, he said, Irji', go back. فَقُلْ السَّلَامُ عَلَيْكُمْ أَأَدْخُلُ, and then say, Assalamu alaikum, may I enter? And this was after Safwan had become Muslim. So perhaps it was very new for him. He did not know about these etiquette. So the Prophet ﷺ, he sent him back. Go and say, Assalamu alaikum, may I enter? So two things must be done. Make yourself familiar. Identify yourself. Tell the people of the house who you are. And secondly, also say salam. Why? Because ذَلِكُمْ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, that is better for you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ, so that you can remember. That is better for you than what? Than entering without permission. Than entering without saying salam. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ, so that you can take heed, you can take admonition, and you can understand the good that is in this command, the benefits that are in this command. With regards to the revelation of this ayah, it has been said that an Ansari woman, a woman from the Ansar, she came to the Prophet ﷺ one day, and she said, O Messenger of Allah, sometimes I am in such a state in my own house that I do not want anyone to see me in that state. And sometimes my father comes in. And sometimes some other man from the family comes in. What is the command regarding this? What should I do in this situation? So just imagine, a woman, again, she comes to the Prophet ﷺ and she says, I'm in my house, and I am dressed in a particular way, I am in a particular situation in which I do not want that anybody should see me. And the male relatives, my father, or some other man, they enter without permission, and I do not want them to see me in that state. So what is the hukum concerning me? What should I do? Now remember that outside of the house, women are required to wear what? The hijab. But inside the house, should they be wearing the hijab all the time as well? No, that's not fair. So we see that in this ayah, the woman, she has not been told that in her house, she must always be dressed appropriately. In her house, in the privacy of her own house, she must always have the hijab on. She must never be dressed up in a relaxed fashion, so that anyone can come at any time. No. The woman is allowed to do whatever she wants in her house. She must have the privacy of her house to dress up the way she wants, to relax the way she wants. And you see, especially when a woman has children, it could be possible that she's nursing a child, that she's not dressed up in a way that she would like to come in front of her father. Perhaps she's dressed up in her night clothes, in her bed clothes, and she does not want to come like that in front of her brother, in front of her father. And so if her brother walks in, if her father walks in, it would be extremely embarrassing for her. So she went up to the Prophet ﷺ, this woman, and she asked him. And we see that in this ayah, the command is given to who? The entire society. Especially the men. That whether you are related or not, when you go to a house that is not your own house, meaning it's the house where a woman other than your wife lives. And this is the evidence that the house of a person is where his wife lives. Because that house, a husband can come in without permission even. Because it's his own house. He can see his wife in whatever state that she could be in. However she is dressed up. But he cannot see his sister. He cannot see his mother. He cannot see any other woman of the family in that state. The way that he can see his wife. So we see that all the people of the society are taught, that before you enter a house that is not yours, what should you do? Seek permission. Whether it's the house of your sister, or it's the house of your parents, or it's the house of your daughter-in-law, or it's the house of any relative. Seek permission before entering so that the woman can enjoy her freedom inside her house. Now this ayah also teaches us that if people are living in a joint family system, if they are, then the woman must be given her right to be without hijab inside the house. Why? Because the hijab is where? Outside the house, not inside the house. Because sometimes it happens that where, for example, a woman is married to a man and the man's brother also lives in the same house. The woman is told, you come outside the room, you have to wear your niqab. You're working in the kitchen, I don't care, you have to wear your niqab. My brother has his freedom in the house, you're supposed to cover yourself. This is not the way. A woman must be given her freedom inside the house. Because she has to cook, and she has to look after the children, and she has to nurse the children, and she has to clean, and she has to do many things. And it's impossible to do that, all of that work with the hijab on. It's not possible for a woman. And the men of the family, they are taught that before entering, what should they do? They should seek permission. Even if they're going from one room to the other, even if they're going from upstairs to downstairs, from one floor to the other, they should seek permission. I remember once, I visited one of my friends, and they have an Arab background. So a lot of Arab customs are within their family. And I was at her house, and her brother was there as well, and he was upstairs. So when he found out that my sister's friends are here, before coming down, he said, I'm coming down. He just announced, I'm coming down, going up, going to the kitchen, going outside. Anywhere he would go, he would announce. Why? So that the women, they can relax. It's inside the house, and they should have the freedom to be without their hijab. And if there is a man who is unrelated inside the house, or he's coming in the house, then he should seek permission, because his sister is living over there. If it was his wife, perhaps it would be a different case. But I really like that every time he would go up, every time he would go down, even though we were in the room, but still he would announce. Why? So that just in case somebody's coming outside, they know that I'm on my way down. I'm on my way up. And this was so convenient for everybody. No accidents, because typically what happens? Accidents happen, right? No accidents like that, no bad feeling, and at the same time everybody's relaxed. So it was very, very comfortable. So we see that in this ayah, very important family and societal laws are given, because the house is a place where a person should have the right to relax, a person should have the right to unwind himself, and a person should have his private space so that he can do whatever he wants, and the house can be a means of peace and comfort for him. Because if a woman is not even comfortable in her own house, then will that house be a source of peace for her? No. Will she want to continue to live in that house? No, she would want to run away from that house. Which is why we see that many times where such unnecessary and unrealistic restrictions are imposed on girls, where they are forced to stay inside their rooms, and if they dare to come out of the room, they have to put on their jilbab and their niqab and their gloves and their socks and their shoes and everything. And they have to cook in that way, they have to clean in that way, and the brother-in-law is sitting like there like a king. Many times such marriages, they end up in divorce. Young people, they end up in divorce like that. Why? Because this is an unrealistic way of living. This is an unfair practice. It goes against our religion. Our religion gives freedom to the woman inside the house. She should be allowed to dress up the way she wants to. She should be allowed to do whatever she wants to in a relaxed fashion. And we see that where the woman is not given her freedom in the house, then this affects her relationship with her husband. It affects her relationship with her in-laws. It affects her relationships. And they become irritated, and they don't like being married, they don't like being over there. Why? It goes against the deen. Like for example, if a man says that he wishes to get married to a woman, but he sets a condition that I'm going to be living with my parents. So if you wish to get married to me, then you have to agree to this, that you have to live with me, with my parents, because I'm the only son and I'm supposed to be looking after my parents. Okay, that's fine. However, he must provide the wife the freedom within the house. That she has the right to cook whatever she wants. She has the right to do whatever she wants in the house. Invite people over who she wants to with the approval of her husband, obviously. Because many times what happens? Such a girl becomes a servant to the mother-in-law. The mother-in-law decides whatever has to be done and the daughter-in-law has absolutely no freedom. This is not fair. Similarly, he should provide her with private space, with private area in which she can relax herself. And private area does not just mean one room that is very tiny, that is very small, that barely has a small window to it. No. It should be an area including, let's say, her washroom, her bedroom, maybe some area where she is free. She is relaxed. She has her own space. And this is obviously according to whatever the man can afford and whatever he can give. However, if for a temporary time, for a certain reason, a man and a woman have to live like this, then remember this should only be temporary. It's not a permanent solution. This is not the permanent way of living. Because we see that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the house of a man was where his wife used to live, not where his mother and sister and all the relatives of the family are living. And I mentioned to you once that I went to Bangladesh and over there visited this village, and there was a small place where these servants, they used to live, and there were 3 families living over there, and each woman had a separate kitchen. And a kitchen was perhaps smaller than this table. It was that small. Because every woman wants that freedom. Every woman needs that freedom. That she should be allowed to cook what she wants, the way that she wants, when she wants, what dishes to use and which fork to use. Because unfortunately, when there are 2 women, then what happens? If you're putting the tomatoes, the other one will say, don't put that many tomatoes. If you're using a particular spoon, don't use that spoon. Put less salt. Constantly women are interfering then. And it causes a lot of rift between a woman and her relatives. And this is not the way that a family should be. This is not a healthy way of living. This does not bring peace to a person from his house. And if a person cannot find peace in his house, then where can he find peace and comfort? It's unrealistic. So, in this ayah, what do we see? That the house, it is sacred. In the sense that nobody can come into somebody else's house without permission. You have to seek permission before entering. And it's not just that the house is sacred in that sense, but it's also the people of the house. Even they are sacred in the sense that their privacy should not be violated. Their freedom should not be affected. Unnecessary restrictions should not be imposed on them. And it's not just the house and the people of the house, but also the items, the things that are in the house, even they are sacred in the sense that nobody can come and take them, nobody can come and use them without the permission of their owners. Now, in this ayah, we see that 2 commands mainly have been given. That before entering, tasta'nisu, and secondly, tusallimu. Now, with regards to saying the salam before entering, or saying the salam in order to take permission, remember that the salam must be said in a very clear manner, in a loud manner, so that the people inside can actually hear. And when a person takes permission to enter, he should also take that permission in loud and clear words. We learned that Jabir, radiallahu anhu, he said that I came to the Prophet ﷺ with something that was owed by my father, and I knocked at the door. The Prophet ﷺ asked, Manza, who is that? So I said, Ana. It's me. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Ana, Ana. As if he disliked it. Meaning, what do you mean by Ana, Ana? Who is it? Because if a person just says, it's me, that does not fulfill the purpose of isti'nas. If I say it's me, how do you know who it is? It's not a guessing game. So when a person seeks permission, he should seek permission in a clear fashion. We also see that once a man, he came to the Prophet ﷺ's door, and he said, A'aliju? What does A'aliju mean? Walaja yaliju, wuluj. What does it mean? To enter into a narrow place. And it's not really a way of asking permission to enter. If you don't mind, I'd like to translate this in Urdu. Main ghus aun. How would you say that in English now? May I just sneak in or something like that? To thrust in. Anyway, so he said, Aliju. So the Prophet ﷺ said to his servant, he does not know the way to seek permission. Go and tell him that he should say, Assalamu alaikum a'adukhulu. Go and teach him the manner of seeking permission. So similarly, when we go to somebody's house, Don't just say, hey, and open the door and walk in. No. Say, Assalamu alaikum, may I enter? May I come in? Okay? That's understood. Like, for example, you just spoke to your aunt that I'm coming to drop off this thing, and she says, okay, I'm going to open the door and I'm going upstairs. The door is unlocked, just come in and leave it and go. So obviously you're going to do that. But again, at that time, when you open the door, say Assalamu alaikum. Why? She's upstairs. She's concerned the door is unlocked. Anybody could come in. So she should know that it's you who is coming in. Remember that when you're within the house, then it doesn't really make that sense that every time you come into your mother's room, knock, 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 and she's wondering who is it. So don't create unnecessary burden on yourself and on other people.